Hello guys, this is Cody. How you guys doing? So this video is discussing about the spoilers and Avengers Endgame. So if you guys haven't watched it, I suggest you guys leave the video, go see the movie, this record-breaking movie, which is already at $1.7 billion within 8 days, somewhere in there. And it's already like the 5th highest grossing film of all time. This movie, it's just monstrous. I'm going to repeat it again, guys. If you have not seen this movie, don't watch this video until you watch the movie. Trust me. You don't want this movie getting spoiled to you. It has not happened to me, and I enjoyed it the best. I enjoyed it with all the surprises. So one more time, if you have not seen Avengers Endgame, I recommend you getting off this video and go see the movie. It's worth every dime. Even if you're not a Marvel fan, fully a Marvel fan, you're going to feel something at least. The movie has everything in it. With that, we'll begin. That wasn't the death I was expecting. I thought Captain America was going to die in one scene, but turns out someone else does. So let's start from the beginning. I'm going to make this a quick spoiler video. So, beginning of the movie starts with Tony Stark and Nebula floating in space for like 20 odd days after the battle in Titan. It picks up them playing a game, basically, and after that a while, Tony Stark recorded his message in the trailers to Miss Potts, and then Captain Marvel rescues them. They got back to Earth. They get out. Tony was beyond exhausted. You could tell his body was not that good. You could tell he was sick. After they come back, Tony was resting anyway. And then the rest of the Avengers, if we go against Thanos, we'll be going in Horse Center. How do you know it's going to be different, basically? This time, they have Captain Marvel because she says, "You have me this time," and they're asking, "Oh, where's she been?" And then plot, they say, she's basically been around the universe all this time, helping out planets and all that. So, basically, we jump towards them going into the ship that Tony and Nebula get off. They basically go to the planet where Thanos is. Thanos was basically beyond injured at this point because apparently he did 2 snaps. The first snap was at the end of Infinity War, where he got rid of half the life in the universe. The second snap was to destroy the stones. And then Thor cut off his gauntlet arm, and surprise, no stones. And they're like, "Where did he hit them?" He says, "I didn't hit them. I destroyed them because of the temptation." And then Thor goes for the head, and everyone's like, "Thor, why did you do that?" And he says, "I went for the head." And then confirmed there was a time skip. 5 years later, everyone's starting to pick up. Anyway, like Captain America's helping out people with after the snap. Anyway, helping the people regain, and then basically, Ant-Man somehow gets out of the quantum realm. We had no idea till now. Apparently, some rat accidentally hits a button on top of the brown fan, and whadoos, Ant-Man comes out. Basically, he goes to the Avengers base, and he gives them the idea time travel with using the quantum realm. It's possible. So then they basically go to Stark, where he did marry Potts, and surprise, surprise, they actually had a child named Morgan Stark. She's 5 in this movie. So basically, they had a child, but yeah, it's an interesting relationship they have. But Tony says, "Nah, that's not me anymore. I'm going to live a peaceful life," and all that. And then they went to get Banner, which is now Professor Hulk. During the 5 years, I believe or so, that's when Hulk and Banner merged into one person. And it's an interesting character, basically. So, what happens after that? Basically, they start building that, getting test runs and all that. Oh no, Stark finds out how to do the time travel and it works. And then him and Miss Potts, or Miss Stark anyway, had a conversation about you should do it. You're not going to you're not going to rest until you get this done. Do it. Basically, conversation. And then basically they start building up to building confirmed time machine. And I love how they did it. They basically reference a lot of good time travel films in this movie. Like Back to the Future, Hot Time Machine, which, wow, I'm shocked on that. Not gonna lie. But besides that, they started building and then they had to do some test runs. And then they split up into teams where all the Infinity Stones were back in the past. Basically, in 2011, during the first Avengers movie, isn't it? No, 2012, I mean. Basically, there was 3 Infinity Stones in New York at once. There was the time, there was the mind, and there was the space. Then, 2013, they went to Thor: The Dark World to get the Reality Stone. And then the other group went after the Power and Soul Gem. Or stones, basically. So the group that went into New York was Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Captain America. The group that went after... oh wait, I'm missing someone. It was Hulk, too. With the group going to New York. There was another group to go to the Dark World. That was Thor and Rocket. The next group that was going to the Power Stone and Soul Gem were Hawkeye, Black Widow. They went to the Soul Gem. And War Machine and Nebula went up to the Power Stone. Basically, the New York one, they got 2 out of the 3 gems. Loki gets the Space Stone and teleports out, which means they lost the Time Stone until they decided to go back to a time where Pym particles were still getting created and where the Time Stone was. They went back to the 1970s where they did the cameo of Stan Lee when he was saying basically, peace, not war. That is a great cameo if that's the last cameo of Stan Lee in the MCU. So basically, let's go forward to Thor's team anyway. He meets his mother, they talk about it. Oh, I forgot about Thor too. He basically becomes Thor Thick with 2 C's. It's because of the depression because of Thanos. He knows he could have stopped Thanos before he snapped his fingers. He got depressed. The only way to heal him was beer, food. Yeah, everything there. And then basically he had a talk with his mother basically about you're worthy, you're my son. And then basically Rocket basically stole the ether from Jane Foster. I think that's the character's name. Don't quote me on that. Basically, she steals the ether. They run, but before they left, Thor took Mjolnir from Thor: The Dark World with him, which is cool and all. So let's go to Nebula and War Machine. No. Wait, yes. Let's go to them. So basically, they got the Power Stone. But something interesting happens. The Nebula in 2014, because they went back to the Guardians of the Galaxy year time. The Nebula, before being friendly and all, the one who served under Thanos, somehow got the memories of the future Nebula, and Thanos found out what happens in the future. He wins, but he gets killed, so they devise a plan, basically, which is going to happen. Basically says, let them gather all the stones, we'll go when they have them all. basically. And then the 2014 Nebula disguised as the 2019, or it would be actually 2023 Nebula because the 5-year skip. Basically, after that, we got Black Widow and Hawkeye, which this was a shocking scene, by the way. They were fighting each other, so one could live while one sacrifices himself permanently for the Soul Gem. It sucks to say, but Scarlett Johansson, aka Black Widow, took the ultimate sacrifice, and Hawkeye got the Soul Gem. Oh, I forgot to talk about the very beginning of the movie. It was a depressing tone because we seen Hawkeye training his daughter anyway with a bow and arrow like him, but after she gets the perfect bullet, after he tries to get the arrow, he turns around, his family is gone. That was depressing if you're a fan of Hawkeye. So anyway, back to Stark and Steve Rogers. Basically, they went back into the 1970s. They went to a military base where they found the Tesseract, but some other things happened. They got the Pym particles, but Captain America sees the love of his life again, Peggy Carter, again, and realize he still loves her with all his heart. And basically, Tony Stark meets his father. And I like this reference. They reference Jarvis, the actual character from one of the TV shows, too, which is a nice reference. So they got the Space Stone and everything. They got all the stones, basically, in the present. Then they put it in a gauntlet, and then Hulk puts it on. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, which I told you to get out already. So basically, Hulk puts it on because he says he was born to do this because of the radiation that the gauntlet gives up when you do anything with it. So basically, he was the strongest to withhold the power of the stones of the gauntlet. He was able to do, and all life came back. Till the 2014 Nebula basically doesn't steal it, but she brings Thanos to the present, aka the future, and all hell starts breaking loose. Basically, bombs were dropping. Everyone was getting misplaced. Basically, Thanos gets down the ship, waits for the three main Avengers, Cap, Iron Man, and Thor. And then, basically, people are getting stuck, basically, trouble. And then they had to defend off the gauntlet where the 2014 Nebula gets killed by the future Nebula. Gamora of the past helps them. So this is the more important stuff if you guys like the action. So basically, Thanos waits, and then Cap, Iron, and Thor basically come up to him. He's like, "You guys should have just left it alone. Everything was going alright. Guys should have stopped. But you guys didn't. So I came back. And this time, I'm going to kill everyone and to create my own universe." And they're like, hell no. And basically, Thor, dual-wielding Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. And then everyone's going after him. Iron Man gets struck by Thor's attack, which gets repelled by Thanos. Thanos basically beating both Thor and Captain. Captain gets fall on the ground, and then Thor gets hit in the rock, and the Stormbreaker almost pierces Thor, but Mjolnir hits Thanos so hard he actually fell or get pushed back far, and everyone's like, oh! And then turns out Captain America gets Mjolnir, and damn, wasn't that exciting? I was like, woo! Woo! They paid off Age of Ultron if you watched Age of Ultron, where they did that drug party, basically. The party, anyway, where they tried to lift up the hammer. Captain was the only one besides Thor to move it a bit. So, they finally paid that off, and then Thor and Cap were fighting Thanos. Stark was trying to get his stamina back, but then things started looking grimmer, and then Thor gets kicked back, and Thanos is like, screw you, and then starts breaking Cap's shield, which, wow. And then after he breaks it, he gets hit, he gets stabbed in the damn leg, which seems like it was pointing towards Captain's gonna die, but that was not it. Basically, after that, Captain was standing up, Thanos had his whole army basically come to the Earth, and Captain was the only one standing up with a broken shield, about to face Thanos by himself. But then you hear intercom, basically he's like this, and he hears Falcon saying, "On your left," which is a nice reference to Winter Soldier, by the way. Basically, after that, portals start opening. You see Wakandans, you see the Guardians of the Galaxy, you see Asgardians, you see everything. This was the best freaking thing to bring every character, big characters. You see Doctor Strange, you see the Guardians, you see Black Panther, you see Shuri, you see Spider-Man. And you're like, oh. And then you see everyone start gathering up, and you see Thanos is like, oh, like starting to get a little nervous. And then Captain brings Mjolnir here and says, "Avengers, assemble!" Yes, that's the highlight quote, almost the highlight quote there. Basically, they were bringing it to Thanos and all that. And then they got what they wanted to. So then basically they're trying to bring back the stones to each time period, because if they don't, they create a different timeline, which would alter history, basically, from what understandings and all that from the ancient one. So basically, it was like an actual damn comic book fight. You see like the most insane action scenes in any cinema history, any cinema movie in history. It was damn good. So basically, you see people carrying it across the field, and then you see like Spider-Man taking it across the field, and then you see Captain Marvel basically taking it, and then you see like Thanos trying to go after it, honestly, after all that. And you would see the biggest fight in cinema history with every character. It was I can't describe it. It was damn wunderbar. Wunderbar is wonderful in German. And it was excellent. Basically, to get more wrapped up anyway. So basically, they stop from getting to the fan, basically, to return the stones to each timeline. Thanos is like fighting everything. He gets the gauntlet on, but Captain Marvel is like making sure he doesn't close his fist. He pulls out the Power Stone, and he does this. She went flying like mad. Puts the Power Stone back in. He's like, yeah. And then you see Stark holding him back, and then you see him like, and you see like, I am inevitable. Inevitable. Thanos basically quotes, and he does this, and he's like, and then you see like Iron Man right here, he's like, I am Iron Man! And then basically you see Thanos' armies disappearing. You see Thanos disappears last because he still was stronger than everyone else. You know the scene where Spider-Man knew he was dying? That's the reason why he didn't die as fast as the other characters. Thanos like, he accepted his defeat like a true villain, but that was the ultimate sacrifice Stark had to do. He had to give up his life in order to defeat Thanos, because no one besides Thanos and the Hulk confirmed right now is able to handle the power of the Infinity Stones altogether. So Stark, being a human, basically died. Which, I'm not gonna lie, that was probably the most heart-wrenching moment of the film. I actually cried. I'm not gonna lie. R.I.P. Stark. You made the world better. Basically, before he died, Peter said, We did it, Mr. Stark. We did it. Pepper basically comes up. Oh god, I'm starting to get teary. I'm not gonna lie. This is really an emotional scene. So Pepper, anyway, comes up and says, "You can rest now, Tony. We're safe. You can rest." And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. So basically, it goes to Stark's funeral, where now his daughter won't have a father in the future, which is sad, honestly. So basically, they do his funeral, all that, which I'm telling you, it was beautiful. R.P. Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. will always be Iron Man, and that's a fact. No one could ever take that from him, because he fits the character role perfectly. So, to get further in, after the funeral, Hulk and a few others make a miniature time machine, basically, and Cap basically went in there to return all the time stones to the proper place in history so there isn't no alternate timelines. And basically, he did that, but basically he said, "You'll be back in 5 seconds," and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't show, and he's like, "Do it again! What happened?" And then he do it again, but then they see an Cap over on a bench over there. Basically see him as an old man, and you see a ring on him. He's like, Falcon's like, "So, you want to tell me about that?" And he's like, "No, I don't think so." That's a nice reference to Saving Private Ryan, because there's a scene in there basically like, Ryan's basically like, "So you want to talk about that?" "Nah, that's my thing. Nah, I'm not going to tell it." So basically, in this final, closer to the finale of the movie anyway, I mean the finale already, major climax of the movie already happened. So in the finale, basically Steve says to Falcon, "Come, test this on." And it's the shield. Basically saying, Falcon's the next Captain America. And I'm like, oh god. Wow. This movie is just too good. And then the final scene was justice to Captain America. Captain America got to be with his love of his life that he couldn't be with because he went underwater during World War II. Because of time travel, he was able to have a family with her and all that. He was able to be finally at peace. Because that's one thing he couldn't get his mind out of his mind, was Peggy. He was able to get the final dance with her, and we see them kiss, and then we hear the credit music and all that. It was beautiful. Though this movie might not have a credit scene, it did hint at some characters. There was one scene where Oye, I think I'm saying it right. I could be butchering the name. I'm sorry if I am. And basically, Widow, basically they're talking about earthquakes, but she was saying they're not on Earth. They're not on land. They're underwater sea quakes. Basically hinting at future property going to the MCU was Namyar. His name starts with an N. Namyar, something like that. Hinting at an Aquaman type of character universe in the MCU, basically similar to that. Introduced in the future. This movie, I'll give this movie. This is the best case scenario for this conclusion. I could not imagine any other conclusion. Sure, I could have thought Captain America doing the ultimate sacrifice, but that was a twist when Stark died. I'm not gonna lie, that was a twist. So this was the spoiler review of Avengers Endgame. I hope you guys do see this movie more than once, because I'm going to have to go back this coming week to see it my second time and see what I have missed. But trust me, this movie is one hell of an enjoyable movie. This is Cody, signing off.